important would you say is this announcement from President Obama and President Xi as an example to other nations ahead of these talks in Paris?
It is critically important. There is no doubt that these are the two greatest economies. They're also the two greatest polluters. So for them to take action and to do it together is really very, very important because, A, it proves that they are assuming, certainly the United States has past responsibility, China is looking into the future, and they're assuming their responsibility together. But it also is a very, very important example of how by not just working individually and separately, but rather by joining forces and joining efforts, everyone can do so much more than we're doing right now. So on both accounts, a very, very important role modeling for the world.
You know, state leaders are one thing. Mark Zuckerberg is another. Zuckerberg's actually going to be speaking at the UN over the weekend about sustainability. How important are business leaders like Mark Zuckerberg?
Critically important. It is absolutely clear that policy is critical and it has to be the bedrock of change, and that is what every single country is doing now, individually within their own borders, as well as contributing to the construction of the international regulatory framework that is going to guide this transformation over the next 10 to 20 years. But that is not the end of the story. That policy then needs to be enacted. That policy then needs to be taken to the ground to make really the difference on the ground. And that is the purview of the private sector. It's also the responsibility of subnational governments. So there is a very important collaborative framework that is being built here between national governments on one side, establishing the policy, and then those that are implementing and actually getting the work done, which are the subnational governments and corporations and civil society.
You know, we talk a lot about clean energy on this show. You know, we've talked about innovations in solar and wind. Where do you see the most promise?
Well, it is definitely in the family of renewables, and really quite amazing what we see happening right in front of our eyes. So it is being reported, although we will wait a few days to have the confirmation, that India will be by 2030 they will be generating 350 gigawatts of renewable energy. That is the equivalent of 175 Hoover dams. China, on the other hand, now has already, what we know and have confirmed is that China installed last year 4 times as much wind power as the United States, and that by 2030, China will actually have 1,000 gigawatts, which is the exact same as the United States' total generation capacity now. So you see that developing countries are truly taking the lead in investing in renewable energy because they have understood that that is where their future is, that makes sense for them.
And quickly, Christina, we talk about nuclear energy on this show. I recently spoke with the CEO of an innovative nuclear startup called Transatomic Power. How important or critical do you think nuclear energy could be to this cause, or is that still a long way off? We only have about 30 seconds.
I think that's a question that every country is going to have to decide for themselves. But on nuclear, I think at least 3 factors have to be considered. First, safety, certainly. Secondly, increasing costs because of added security measures as compared to decreasing costs in renewables. And finally, the dependence on extending the grid.